Welcome back to season 3, episode number 21 of The Network Effect. I was hesitant about doing a third season, but I decided we are going to change format, and I'm actually going to interview professionals across various industry talking about how they've utilized networking to increase their reach, customer base, opportunities, maybe finding a new job. So without further ado, we are going to kick off with episode 21. My very first guest is named Todd DeVoe. And if you know me, you probably know Todd. But Todd is the editor-in-chief of Emergency Management Network, a thriving newsletter for emergency managers and those studying to become emergency managers. He is currently the second vice president for the International Association of Emergency Managers, USA. He is the vice president for the Foundation of the Research and Advancement of Emergency Management. Mouthful, I know, but wait, there's more. The founding faculty of the University of Applied Research and Development, and an instructor of emergency management at the University of California, Irvine Division of Continuing Education. Now, Todd and I met at a hasty, if you got a military background, you'll understand, a hasty networking event we called the Coffee Machine back in the day when we worked at American Medical Response running rescue ambulance. So without further ado, Mr. DeVoe, welcome.
Hey, brother, how's it going?
Dude, it's so good not to be reading a script and I get to be a little animated and actually engage with somebody other than a script scrolling by.
First of all, I like your intro.
Cool. Thank you.
It's on fire, literally. It's awesome.
Literally.
Awesomeness. And yeah, so I'm excited about your new direction that you're going with the program too, and I wish you great success with it.
Well, I appreciate that, Todd. We're going to kick this off. I have a few questions outlined, and I'm sure we're going to take a right when we should be making a left because of our relationship together. Like I said, a hasty networking event. We met at a coffee pot in the AMR building in Cerritos back in the day. And it was like a gathering of veterans when we first met. You remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you realize that was almost 23 years ago, man?
I don't say that. That makes me feel old.
You are old, brother. You are old. So right now, I want you to share with us an unexpected opportunity that dropped in your lap because of professional networking.
You know what? I'll tell you, it's I would say it's been more than one. You know, I got my dog here with me. She's my networking partner. Cool. No, I think it's been more than one for sure. But I'll tell you about the most current one.
Tell me.
Okay, so I was walking through the hallway. No. I was about to give a speech. Actually, that's what I was about to do, and I was walk up the stairs, and this friend of mine comes over to me and he goes, "Hey, man," he goes, "how are things going?" He goes, "I got some news on you." I'm like, "Oh yeah, so we'll let's go have a beer talk about that one, right?" He's like, "Okay, yeah, cool, all right." So we go out, having a couple of cocktails and just discussing some stuff, and through that he offered me a job to come work for him, to do some exciting stuff with the U.S. Olympics and some stuff, and he has me coming in as the operations section chief and this new venture in the new city. So that's and I worked over. It was all about cocktails.
That's very cool. I mean, and that's the power of networking, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not burning bridges, holding close to relationships. You know, so many people think networking is about selling, and it's not. It's about fostering relationships. So with that having been said, Todd, working with the students you work with, getting into emergency management,
Sure.
What advice would you give them about professional networking now while they're a student learning the trade?
Well, I'm gonna go 2 points. So one, when I was doing teaching undergrad, which I don't teach undergrad anymore, it's all grad students. It was about building skills. right? Go and get an internship to build skills, to learn the ropes. Um, take that opportunity that's available to really build that up and build a resume. Still important for undergrad, by the way, right? So if you're not finished with your year 12 yet, year 12, your senior. Just think about my kids. Your senior year, yeah. If you're not done with high school yet, finish high school, please. When you're finishing college, on your senior year, you realistically should be working, not just doing your coursework, which is important, obviously, but really building those your network of potential jobs through internships, through some volunteer work that you can do, things like that that really build that resume. Important. But once you get out and you're in there for a little bit, if you go to grad school, you shouldn't look at grad school. You should be doing internships, right? You should really already have some established working relationships. Um, there, you need to be not just knocking on doors. You should be building those relationships, finding mentors, um, in the profession that you want to be in, right? Finding and when I say finding mentors, it's not just finding anybody, finding that right mentor that fits you, and then that you fit the mentor. And number two is finding the mentors who actually have the ability to open doors for you in that profession. I'm thinking, not even just emergency management, but this goes across the realm for any type of job that you have. For instance, like if you want to be in the entertainment business, right? Just to use this as a good example. You want to go get a mentor who's a record executive, right? You don't want to get a mentor who is a software developer. Not saying that software developer can't help you in some cases, but it's not going to open doors for you in the business that you want to be in.
Right, right.
So find the person who's in the industry that you're doing at the highest level that you could get, and build that relationship with them. And same thing with emergency management, right? You might have a mentor who's a police chief or a fire chief. That's great, but you want to have somebody who's in emergency management who can really show you the way and open the door for you.
You know what? When I talk about networking with people who are new to it that are uncomfortable, I always encourage them to have a couple of canned questions that are conversation starters that they can relax and open up conversation with. And one of those is this question that I pose to you. What's a question no one has ever asked you about the work that you do that you wish they would?
Silence.
Well,
I
I guess
have
it's
had a
not a
lot of
great conversation starter then, is it?
no, it is. It's a deep think, right? I mean, it's not one that you just go boom. You don't have that off the tip of your tongue. It's a really a deep think. Um, and I love that, by the way. In John, Brian knows that the fact that I do like to dive deep into things. Um, People don't ask the hard questions, and what I mean by that, they're like, oh yeah, like what's the worst thing you've ever seen or whatever, stuff like that, right? Those are really surface scratching questions that sometimes can be annoying, right? When it comes to that, you want to look into what are the opportunities that you have for growth, right? And then when I say growth, it's not about can I promote, right? It's is there opportunity for you to grow personally and professionally? Is do you like it was funny last year. I gave everybody, not everybody, I gave all of our executive staff, um, that's captains and above, a book, you know, and matter of fact, it's right here. And anyway, I gave him a book. It's Amanda Ripley's book. It's her second edition, called The Unbelievable. I'm pulling this out really quick just to really show you. And I read her first book, but I got this for everybody. I paid for it. And as I gave it to him, I gave it to one of the girls, who and she's like, "Oh, you gave me homework, right?" And I'm like, and she's like, "Oh, when I get a book, I always feel like I'm getting homework." That's such the wrong attitude to have, right? It's like here's an opportunity to learn, All right. And that's where you have to look at things like this. So when you have the ability to grow, what is the opportunity to learn? Right. Can that organization get you, if not within the organization to grow, say you join a small group, does the person who works there have the ability to make a phone call during like these fires that are happening here in LA County, to get you sitting in the large EOCs to get seat time in a disaster, right? Which we're doing right now with some of our junior members and getting them inside the emergency operations center to get some seat time in, because these disasters, thank God, don't come around every opportunity.
Absolutely.
Do you have the opportunity to go out of state to learn from other people? Do you have the opportunity to go to conferences and or training? That's what I'm talking about. Is there opportunity for growth?
Absolutely.
Not do I have the ability to promote? Because
Right.
you might have to start with a small agency where there's no opportunity to promote up, but you might have the opportunity to grow, and that's what you should be looking for.
Right. Back to the question you're commonly asked. Do you remember the Nicolas Cage movie, Bringing Out the Dead?
Yeah.
He was an ambulance operator. I believe it was in New York City. And somebody asked him, "What's the worst thing you've ever seen?" And he replies, "Anchovies on a pizza." That always sticks with me when that question is asked. So, what advice would you give to someone who feels intimidated or overwhelmed when they're walking into a networking event or large crowd?
Yeah. Everybody does. Everybody feels intimidated walking into a large networking event. And if you don't, you're in the wrong networking event, right? Um, and I'll tell you this, what I mean by this is this was not necessarily a networking event, but networking is always being done. I had to present in this room, and I'm sitting in there, and I was a junior guy at the time, and I had three sheriffs, the sheriff of three different counties: Orange County, San Bernardino County, and LA County. Walk in the room. I had two 4-star generals walking in the room. I had a couple congresspersons walking, not the staff members, the Congress members themselves, walking into the room, and chiefs of police from LA City, Long Beach, and Anaheim, and a few other larger cities that came in there. And I look at my chief, who I'm sitting at, my chief, the guy who I'm working for, and I look at him, I go, I think I'm in the wrong room, right? And he goes, No, you're in the room you're in the room where you're supposed to be. And understanding that you're in the room that you're supposed to be, right? All these people are these high-ranking officials. I'm still kind of junior, and I'm there for a reason. And understand that you're there for a reason. Nobody in there is looking to bite your head off. No one there is looking to embarrass you. They all want to see what you have to say if you're in that room presenting. Number two, if you're in that room, take that opportunity to shake hands and say hello.
Absolutely.
You know, they'll and this is your time to shine, to stand out. Right? You don't have to put a show on. You don't have to do anything crazy. You just have to be there, be present, and just know that all those people that were there were one time you. So that's the
Absolutely.
important part of it too. They all
Absolutely.
started somewhere.
So, given the years we've known each other, we've talked about networking and working trade shows and things of that nature. And I've shared with you how I handle the influx of people. Typically, it's a business card. Nowadays, it's digital cards. However, I would put hot leads in my left breast pocket, and I would put warm to cold leads in my right breast pocket. When I would get home, I would follow up with the warm or hot leads first and then move over to the cold. What approach do you take when you're following up with new connections you've made at a networking event?
Whew. I mean, to be honest with you, it's probably that one area in my life where I'm not great at, right? I'm not a sales person by trade. I mean, I know that you and I've had the conversation, read the books, everything, that we're all salespeople, right? But as far as like what do I do, as far as hot and cold, I really don't look at it that. But what I look at, and it's funny you say that because I have a few cards right here in front of me that I've gone through. I went to a conference, and of all the cards that were given to me, these are the ones. These these are the ones that I'm actually following up on. Um, it's people that I don't want to say are important. That's because everybody I think has something that they can add to the conversation, but it's people who I want to have a further conversation to expand my knowledge base, right? Because that's what I'm looking at as a college professor. I'm looking at somebody who can expand my knowledge base. As a podcaster, I'm looking at somebody who's going to be interesting to be on the show. Um, and then as far as like sales go, as far as like having sponsors and stuff, I'm looking for people who are going to um, bring a quality to my audience that I believe in. Because the stuff that I bring on, people who are in companies I bring on to sponsor my show are companies that I actually believe in how to use their product. I don't let everybody into my sponsorship realm. All right. I'm looking at quality, not quantity, when it comes to sponsors. So it's a little bit different for me. I'm not trying to sell widgets or gadgets, right?
Right.
So I think it's a little bit different. But on the other hand, too, is I'm looking at people who I want to build relationships with, and that's who I follow up with. Whether professional or even personal relationships in some case, right?
Right.
Some people you just click with. And I'll tell you, I'll use a great example, and I'll drop his name. So Bruce Jones, who I've known now for a few years, um, he is a meteorologist and part of Midland Radio. I've known him for years. I've taken him. Well, like we came out here to California. He's never been out here before. Took him out to In and Out. he thought it was great. Now it's like he's like so excited now when he sees In and Out and he's got his wife eating In and Out. And every time he sees him, he's like, "Oh, I remember that first time you brought me to In and Out." Right? And like, why is that important? Well, now we're starting to do some stuff with Midland Radio. You
Right.
know, and it's been years. It wasn't an overnight thing. It's been years I've been having this relationship building. I think and I wasn't even looking for anything out of him. It was just, hey, this is a cool guy. He's an interesting man. He's a very smart guy. He talks about weather. Weather is very important to us. That I'm more interested in weather on a personal side because I go out camping and off-roading, things like this. I want to know what I'm going to be looking at. Here in California, you don't think we have weather, but obviously you've got to pay attention to the news. Winds really impact our life. We got fire burning all over the place. So weather's important, and that's what the conversation was about. It wasn't about radios. And now we're doing some stuff with them, so it's kind of cool.
Very cool. You showed us business cards on your desk. Are there any apps or software CRMs that you use to manage these relationships once you've made them?
Um yeah, so I use a program that you turned me on to a while ago, and I know you kind of moved on from it, but Close. I use that, and then I have Notion as well, that I use, and then now I'm starting to play a little bit more into NowSite, since you've turned me on to that as well. What that is, and NowSite seems to be kind of cool. NowSite has some really cool features into it that, I mean, obviously you could talk more about it, Brian, than I could, but some neat features that help you even like kind of build a better understanding of who you're speaking to, and those are kind of cool tools to use. Um, I'm a guy who's, and this because it drives Brian crazy sometimes. Everybody give me some insight that I am slow to adapt to something new. What I mean slow is like I'm comfortable in what I'm using, so I don't like to change for change's sake. But once I do, I dive into it, and then I pretty much use it. And so I'm transitioning from Close into to NowSite, I believe.
Very, very cool. So this is the last question I have for you. Share a connection you wish you had maintained, but you let it slip. And why do you think that happened?
I mean, there's a couple actually.
Choose one.
I have a couple people who I met throughout the years, different positions that that professionally speaking, not personally, that I wish I kept more of a connection with. Um, and not so much because that they could do anything for me on the professional side, but I like them as an individual. And and it's kind of one of those things like, do I reach out now? It's been 4 or 5 years since I spoke to you last. Do I reach out now and say, hey, how's it going? Yeah, I know I haven't talked to you forever. um and so yeah, I kind of regret a couple people that I've done that with, where I just they haven't called me or I haven't called them, and I feel weird reaching back out to them. And I had uh one guy who I was friends with. Didn't talk all the time, but one of those ones that you kind of let slip, and found out that he passed away. And that was really kind of heartbreaking, because you're like, oh man, like I should have and I didn't, and now he's gone and I can't, and that those are the ones that bug me.
Absolutely, man. And take some advice. It's never too late. Who cares how many years have passed? You know, warm approach him, start commenting on his stuff on LinkedIn, reconnect somehow, find a way, because it's top of mind for you. There's some reason in your mind that you should have, wish you would have, should I still connect with this individual? So do it. What's the worst that can happen?
True. Yeah, true. Yeah.
Absolutely, Todd. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on episode 21, the very first interview episode of Network Effect. Any parting words?
One, thank you for allowing my dog to be part of this experience. She's my she's my I love animals. Number one. Number two, this dog here, she's with me wherever I go, so including online shows. No, and then, but parting words, hey, just say hi. That's all you gotta do. Shake a hand, say hi. And if they're, can I use bad words on this?
Well, it's a quasi business show, so let's keep it clean.
Okay, well, I'm gonna use, if they're a bad person to you, then you don't want to deal with them anyway.
Absolutely.
I was about to use the D word, but I didn't.
Absolutely. Not everybody. Let's put it this way. My mother once told me I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So there we have it. Todd, I really want to thank you. Great work with what you're doing at EMN. If you want to subscribe, I'm going to throw some links to Todd. Most importantly, his LinkedIn link in the show notes. So if you'd like to connect with Todd, go ahead and click that. Reach out to him on LinkedIn. It's one of the great platforms where I do a lot of headhunting and researching. You're open to accepting connections there, Todd?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Again, appreciate it, brother. We will talk soon, I'm sure.
Talk to you later. All right, everybody. Thank you for letting me be here.
All right, everybody. That was our first interview on the Network Effect, episode 21, season 3. I appreciate you being here with us. If you feel this type of content can resonate with anybody in your circle, please share the show. Find us on whatever podcast player you're listening. Give us a rating, give us a review, 5 stars. A couple of sentences goes a long way in helping others discover the show. Appreciate you being here. Oh, I've got one more thing. I'm going to finish every episode with a quote. Not all of them networking related, but today's happens to be. And today's quote is from Alan Collins. Pulling a good network together takes effort, sincerity, and time. Effort, sincerity, and time. So it shouldn't come easy. There is some work involved. We'll see you next week.
Everybody need a refresh, go. Yeah.